In today's fast-paced world, effective communication is not just about speaking, it's about listening. When someone is conveying an idea or attempting to persuade you to accept their position, the art of listening becomes paramount. It's through active listening that you truly understand the nuances of the message being delivered. One of the critical aspects to focus on during such exchanges is the presenter's familiarity with the material they are using as their source. This familiarity can significantly influence how convincing their arguments appear. This is extremely important. How familiar is the person making the argument with the material that he's using as his source? It's one thing to have a broad understanding of a topic, but it's entirely different to delve into the details and intricacies that reveal a deeper knowledge. So when a presenter demonstrates a thorough grasp of the material, it reflects in their confidence, number one, and the clarity of their argument. Understanding the depth of the presenter's knowledge can greatly affect whether you find their position compelling. So a well-informed presenter can anticipate questions, address concerns, and provide insights that someone with only a superficial understanding might miss. It means that the depth of knowledge by the presenter not only builds trust, but also showcases the credibility of the arguments being presented. Therefore, when listening to an idea or a persuasive message, pay close attention to how well the presenter knows their material. Listening, in its truest form, is about engaging with the content and the context, ensuring that your acceptance of an idea is grounded in both understanding and reason. Why do I say this in regards to this peer review that we have embarked on? In the first installment of my peer review on my brother Ron Dalton Jr.'s perspective on the true location of Canaan, I concentrated on his statements and the biblical text that he used as his source. Remember, I have not shared my own position yet. My focus is solely on fact-checking his claims. I will now play 2 videos and ask you to listen to his statements.
So back in the Old Testament, the Hebrews lived amongst the Egyptians. Joseph was already there. He already had a wife and he had 2 kids, Ephraim and Manasseh. And Joseph's 11 brothers came into Egypt and they sojourned there for hundreds of years. And remember, Jacob's only daughter was Dinah. So these men walked into Egypt and stayed there for hundreds of years. Then who did these men have children with to procreate and to become fruitful and to multiply in the land of Egypt?
He says, remember Jacob's only daughter was Dinah. That is what he said. Jacob's only daughter was Dinah or Dinah. This is what he says in the second video.
Now, one of the things we have to look at is that when the Israelites left with Moses, they left with a mixed multitude. And because the Israelites only had one daughter, meaning Jacob, who was renamed Israel, he had one daughter, Dinah. When the 12 sons of Jacob went into Egypt, then they were marrying women in that area, women of Egypt, women of Cush.
Again, he repeats it. Jacob had one daughter, Dinah. So this is the speaker's premise. Again, this is his premise. The mention of Jacob having one daughter in this context highlights the limited number of daughters directly mentioned in Jacob's immediate family, which, according to him, implies a question about how the Israelite population grew so significantly in Egypt. So by him pointing out that Dinah was Jacob's only daughter, he is suggesting that the sons of Jacob did not have immediate female relatives within Jacob's family to marry with and to procreate with, thus having to intermingle with the Egyptians. This is his premise. Don't forget what I said about listening. I will repeat it. One of the critical aspects to focus on during such exchanges is the presenter's familiarity with the material that he is using as his source. This familiarity can significantly influence how convincing their argument appears. I did also emphasize that when a presenter demonstrates a thorough grasp of the material, it reflects in the clarity of their argument. So my concern here isn't about the fact that the Israelites intermarried, as historical text clearly confirms this. The issue I'm addressing is the incorrect statement made by the speaker regarding the number of Jacob's daughters. His entire argument about intermarriage within the Egyptians hinges on this point. Jacob having one daughter, Jacob having one daughter, Jacob having one daughter. That is the point that he's trying to drive home. And I'm highlighting that this fundamental error undermines his entire assertion. Take out your Bibles and turn to the chapter where Jacob travels to Egypt. Now, I'm relying on clear, straightforward texts, not on assumptions or interpretations. Peshat, straight text. It's all about the plain reading of the text. Genesis 46. So Israel took his journey with all that he had and came to Beersheba and offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. And God spoke to Israel in visions of the night and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, Here I am. Then he said, I am God, the God of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for there I will make you into a great nation. I myself will go down with you to Egypt, and I will also bring you up again, and Joseph's hand shall close your eyes. Then Jacob set out from Beersheba. The sons of Israel carried Jacob their father, their little ones, and their wives in the wagons that Pharaoh had sent to carry him. They also took their livestock and their goods, which they had gained in the land of Canaan, and came into Egypt. Jacob and all his offsprings with him, his sons, and his sons' sons with him. Listen carefully here. His daughters, plural, and his sons' daughters. All his offsprings he brought with him into Egypt, Who did Jacob bring down to Egypt according to Genesis 46, verses 7? His sons sons with him, his daughters, plural. Jacob had daughters, not just Dinah. His daughters, plural. And his sons' daughters. So there you have it. Remember what I said. When listening to an idea or a persuasive message, pay close attention to how well the presenter knows their material. This understanding not only enriches your perspective, but also helps you make more informed decisions, ultimately shaping your stance on the matter at hand. Now, let's do this meticulously. Do you recall the story of Joseph being sold? I discussed this in my leadership series as it's a powerful piece of scripture. I often note that the most challenging texts to study are the ones we think we know well, because their familiarity leads us to overlook the actual words in the book, instead filling them with the narratives we've heard. When the brothers sent Joseph's coat of many colors to Jacob and asked him to recognize, identify it, what does the text truly convey to us? Genesis 37. When Reuben returned to the pit and saw that Joseph was not in the pit, he tore his clothes and returned to his brothers and said, "The boy is gone, and where shall I go?" Then they took Joseph's robe and slaughtered a goat and dipped the robe in the blood. And they sent the robe of many colors and brought it to their father and said, "This we have found. Please identify whether it is your son's robe or not." And he identified it and said, "It is my son's robe. A fierce animal has devoured him." Joseph is without doubt torn to pieces. Then Jacob tore his garments and put sackcloth on his loins and mourned for his son many days. Pay attention to verses 35. All his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him. All his what? All his sons, plural. All his daughters, plural, rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. Remember what I said in my opening? I said, understanding the depth of the presenter's knowledge can greatly affect whether you find their position compelling. You judge so far. The presenter focuses his point on who came down to Egypt. Let's read the biblical text, his source that he's using. Genesis 46. Now these are the names of the descendants of Israel who came into Egypt: Jacob and his sons, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and the sons of Reuben, they are listed. Verses 10, the sons of Simeon, they are listed. Verses 11, the sons of Levi, they are listed. Verses 12, the sons of Judah, they are listed. The sons of Issachar, verses 13, they are listed. The sons of Zebulun, verses 14, they are listed. Read verses 15 carefully. These are the sons of Leah, whom she bore to Jacob in Paddan Aram, together with his daughter Dinah. These are the ones that were born in Paddan Aram. Now let's continue carefully. Altogether, his sons, that is Jacob's sons, and his daughters, plural, numbered 33, meaning that Dinah is not the only daughter of Jacob. Dinah is the one that is named. The text clearly says that these are the ones born in Padan Aram, so Dinah is named. But altogether, Jacob did have other daughters, even though their names are not given. The text clearly says that. I did not write the text. I did not invent the text. I am reading what is on the text. Ink on paper.
And remember, Jacob's only daughter was Dinah. And remember, Jacob's only daughter was Dinah. And because the Israelites only had one daughter, meaning Jacob, who was renamed Israel, he had one daughter, Dinah. And because the Israelites only had one daughter, meaning Jacob, who was renamed Israel, he had one daughter, Dinah.
Remember what Shlomo said, if he's the one we are crediting with the book of Proverbs. He writes, "The first to speak seems right, till the cross-examination begins." And that is what we are doing. We are cross-examining what my brother Ron Dalton Jr. has presented, his ideas. Does it hold water? What is my standard of peer reviewing? Does the presenter who is making the case, does he know the material he's using to make the case? Does he know it? Back and front, the valleys and the corners, the depths. Does he know the text? I am not disputing the claim that Israelites in their history intermarried. That's not what I'm doing. That is not my focus. My concern is with the speaker's assertion that Jacob had only one daughter, which forms the basis of his argument about intermarriages in Egypt and the presence of Egyptian words in the Bantu language. That is what I'm addressing. In reality, as we have all seen and read for ourselves, Jacob had more than one daughter, and the Israelites did not need to intermarry to thrive in Egypt. The biblical narrative seems to emphasize their separation, as I demonstrated in my first peer review, which suggests a deliberate portrayal of them not intermingling. The author wants to portray that they did not intermingle. We do know that the Israelites intermingled in their history. Yes, they did. But that is not what the author, who is writing the book of Genesis, this part, is trying to portray. Not at all. Now, the term mixed multitude refers to a diverse group of people who accompanied, not who intermarried with, no, who accompanied the Israelites during their exodus from Egypt. So, I trust this is clear. So now let's move on to our next segment about the animals the speaker discusses. Trust me, you would enjoy this peer review.